We were on our way home from church, and I could feel it already. That thing that happens when you finish a big chunk of the day. Not relief exactly, more like my brain going, okay, we're done. We can let go now. Sundays are for resting at our house, and I was already settling into that inside of my head, already exhaling. And then my grandmother said she wanted to treat us to lunch. Didn't want us to cook, wanted to pay for it. And genuinely, what a gift. I was in. But she didn't want to pick. She wanted me to choose instead. And I felt two things at the same exact time. Guilt, because seriously, Candace, someone is offering to buy you lunch and you're annoyed. And dread, because I did not want to make one more decision. So I turned to my husband, thinking maybe he has a preference. Whatever you want, babe, he says. He's being kind, he's being flexible, and inside I'm thinking, dang it. And I knew better than to ask the kids, because the kids would say something like Brahms or McDonald's, and I didn't want Brahms. So now it's back to me. I'm holding this decision. Nobody else is going to make it. And here's the thing about where we live. We're not very close to civilization. Like, we don't live in the middle of nowhere exactly, but it does take us about 15 minutes to get to the highway. So the closer we got to home, the fewer options we had for eating out. I could feel the window closing with every passing mile. And now it's not just dread. It's dread with a deadline. I'm sitting there having this whole internal back and forth, feeling guilty for even feeling this way, knowing I need to decide like right now, and just not wanting to. Lunch wasn't the problem. I had been making decisions all week for everyone, for my clients, for my kids, for my business, for our home, and I was just done. And this one tiny question, where do you want to eat? What do you want for lunch? Was standing between me and my restful Sunday. And it felt colossal. If you've ever had a moment where a small decision lands on you, like it takes everything you have left, you're in the right place.
You're managing what you always do, but your brain feels scattered and you just can't seem to pull it together. The Busy Brain Do-Over from Steady State Co. is your space to recover, reset, and restart, proud of how you show up again. Because you're not the problem, and you're not alone. Here, you'll find real tools and honest conversations to help you feel capable, steady, and like yourself again. Here's your host, Candace David, a fellow busy brain who believes life doesn't have to run perfectly to run well.
Okay, if that moment felt a little familiar, you're definitely not alone. And quick thing before we keep going. If this podcast has been helpful for you, leaving a quick rating or review helps other busy brains who feel behind find their way too. Thank you if you've already done that. It means a lot. All right, let's talk about what just happened in that moment. So here's what's actually happening. And I want you to hear this clearly. It's not weakness. It's not being dramatic. It's not a character flaw. Your brain has a finite amount of decision-making energy, like actually finite, not in a motivational poster kind of way, neurologically finite. And every decision you make pulls from that same pool. The small ones, the medium ones, the big ones, deciding what to wear, deciding which email to send first, deciding what your kid needs right now, deciding what to order for lunch. Every single one costs something. And for a busy brain, especially a brain that is already tracking more than most people realize, that pool empties faster, way faster. So by the time someone asks you a simple question and you just can't, the problem is not the question. The problem is that you've been spending from that pool all day, all week, and nobody told you it had a limit. That's not weakness. That's a full tank that finally ran empty. And here's the thing. Most of us don't notice it's happening until we're already there. Until some tiny innocent question, like where do you want to eat, feels completely colossal. That's a signal. Not that something is wrong with you, but that your brain has been working really, really hard. And it needs something different than one more decision. That's what the do-over this week is all about. So before I walk you through the do-over for this moment, quick question. Are you driving, folding laundry, or doing like 12 other things while you're listening right now? Yeah, same. So instead of trying to remember everything from this episode, I made you a one-page do-over download. Just go to mybusybrain.com/join and I'll send it straight to your inbox. All right, let's walk through the do-over for this moment. Thing about decision fatigue. You can't eliminate decisions from your life. That's just not realistic. But researchers who study how the brain makes decisions have found something really interesting. The brain doesn't actually get tired of doing things. It gets tired of choosing. Those are not the same thing. Doing is automatic. Choosing costs something every single time. So the goal isn't to do less. The goal is to choose less. And one of the most effective ways to do that is something called a default decision. A default is just a pre-made choice. One you decided in advance so your brain doesn't have to decide it again. This is actually what high-functioning systems do. They remove the choosing so the doing can happen. And this default decision do-over will help you do that for one thing in your life today. This do-over has 3 steps. Step 1, find the repeat. Think about decisions you make over and over again. Not the big ones, the small recurring ones. The ones that seem minor but keep showing up and keep costing you something. Like, what do you eat for lunch on days you go to work? What do you do when you finish one task and you don't know what's next? How do you respond when someone asks you if you can attend one more event? Pick one. Just one decision that keeps coming up. Because here's what the research tells us. Every time that situation shows up and you have to actively decide again, you're spending from that pool. Even if the decision only takes 30 seconds. It still costs something. A default decision, however, stops that spending before it starts. Step 2, make the call now. Decide in advance, not when you're in the middle of the day and already feeling depleted. Now, when your tank still has something in it. This is lunch on Tuesdays. This is my answer when someone asks me to attend another event this week. This is a task I go to after I check my email. And you don't have to decide forever. Just decide for now. Because a default decision doesn't have to be permanent to be effective. It just has to exist. So your brain doesn't have to create it from scratch every single time. Step 3, hold the default. When that situation comes up, and it will, your only job is to remember the default decision already made. You don't reevaluate, you don't weigh it. You just follow the default. And I know that sounds almost too simple, but that's exactly why it works. Your brain isn't spending energy deciding, it's just executing. And execution, that's something a busy brain can do. Less choosing, more doing. Here's your permission slip for this week. You are allowed to run out. Not because you're weak, not because you can't handle things, because you're human and your brain has a limit. That Sunday in the car, my grandmother was being generous. My husband was being kind. The kids, they were fine. Nothing was wrong. And I still hit the wall. Because I had been spending from that pool all week. And by Sunday afternoon, it was empty. That's not a character flaw. That's information. And you are allowed to use that information. Every decision you don't have to make this week, that's energy you still have. Every default you put in place, that's a reserve you get to keep. So when something actually needs you, really needs you, you're still there. If today's do-over hit home for you, would you like me to send it to you? Every episode of the show comes with a one-page do-over download, a simple guide that walks you through the reset we talked about today. So instead of trying to remember the steps later, you'll have it right there whenever your brain needs a reset. Just go to mybusybrain.com/join and I'll send it straight to your inbox. All right, my fellow busy brain friends, take a breath, give yourself a little grace, and remember, you can always start again. That's what a do-over really is. Not perfection, just permission. Talk soon.